Wayne County Sheriff's Commander Donafay Collins. Hello, can you hear me now? Okay. The last applicant is Commander from Wayne County Sheriff's Donafay Collins.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please give us a short description of your experience relevant to the position of Southfield's police chief and why you applied for this position.
Okay. Good evening once again, everyone. My name is Donafay Collins, and as I view the posting for the position of Chief of Police at Southfield, first thought that came to mind is, who in their right mind would not want to have this position? Southfield, a thriving city, a busy city, a city that is respected, and as they say, it's the center of it all. So then I thought, of course everyone's going to apply for this position, but what is the city of Southfield looking for as a police chief? If you say someone with experience, I believe all the candidates have experience, or we wouldn't be here. If you're looking for someone with integrity, I believe everyone has integrity, or they wouldn't be chosen. So I said, I hope they're looking for someone who has a different vision, a new set of eyes, something to move the city of Southfield forward, someone who is transparent, someone who's honest. I spent 29 and a half years with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. I started off in auto theft. Auto theft is very important. As you know, if you have your vehicle stolen and it's not recovered, your insurance rates go up. The insurance companies will charge more money. So it's most important that we have some type of, system in mind, meaning auto theft, to control situations like that. But out of all the units that I've been involved in, community policing was number one. I was assigned to Highland Park in 2003 as a sergeant. I had 5 officers. We covered 5 schools, 6 including the community college. That was very difficult to cover that, but it was very important because the citizens of Highland Park required that they would actually have us firsthand, have an honest relationship where they felt like everyone was treated fairly, they were going not to be ignored, the city was going to be safe, most of all the students were going to be safe as well. And those are the things that I thought of. Southfield is moving forward. You don't want to have any type of distractions, a type of person that's going to bring some type of negativity to the city. You want someone who's full of energy, somebody who is a team player, and is actually going to join the unit that you have already in place. This is a difficult time for law enforcement. As you know, many of the cities, or we've had some small amount of officers who have caused a negative impact on law enforcement. Well, I want to make sure that that does not exist or continue in the Southfield Police Department. I want the officers to be respectful. I know the citizens want to be respected, and it goes both ways. And I would say to the citizens of Southfield that when you stop by a police officer, try not to make it a confrontational situation at that point. We have systems in mind or in place to address those things. All I want is the officers to be professional, treat everybody with respect. Crime or fighting crime or reducing crime is number one. That's very important. So those are the things that would come to mind with me. And along with that, I had the opportunity of being the executive lieutenant over the Highland Park Patrol. And so this included any type of crime that exists in any major city. And after that, we took over the DDOT bus system in Detroit, which is very important. We had a strong relationship with all the citizens of Detroit. We didn't just ride up and just wave and say, how you doing? The bus drivers were very happy with the type of professionalism that we showed and make sure that everybody felt safe on a regular basis, and we did this on a 24-hour basis. So I've had a lot of experience over the Court Services Division, which included the Civil Division, the Criminal Division, the Juvenile Division, and everybody's favorite, the Friend of the Court Division. No pun intended. But those are very important because in the court system, you're dealing with elected officials, judges, civilians, people that have had family who've had crimes committed against them, and to have all those under one roof and still make sure that you have professionalism coming from your organization is very important. So at this time, I felt with this position in Southfield, this would be a great fit. I'm a very personal person. I will look everybody straight in the eye, say what I mean, and mean what I say. If there are any incidents occur or any grievances or any complaints, you will not have to worry about would I be the type of person you can't find. No, I'm quite sure I'll have a number where everybody will be able to reach me. I want the officers to cover all of Southfield and make sure that not only if someone gets stopped by an officer, it's not always something negative. Maybe to help you out or just see is everything all right with the businesses. The business community is very important as well as civilians. And most importantly, everyone that's around Southfield, Detroit, whether it be Inkster, Oak Park, Bloomfield, this is sort of like a mecca, again, the center of it all, and everybody comes through Southfield. But I know the citizens of Southfield want to make sure that you're safe at all times, and that is my plan.
Thank you.
Next question. So what are your top 3 goals for the first 30 to 90 days if you are selected as police chief?
The first goal that I would like to have is to make sure that, again, that all the citizens feel like that they're being treated fairly. If there is a situation where we have people, now we have distracted driving going on. And I don't want any of the citizens to feel like that you're just being stopped for no reason. If there's a situation where you have distracted driving, it causes people to have accidents and death. So I want to make sure that officers are on patrol, covering the whole city, make sure that they're having contact with all the citizens. I also want to make sure that everybody within the agency feels that they have an opportunity to move forward. I've looked at all of the different levels. I don't know how many levels as far as male, female, or I want to make sure that if you're in a minority, that you also have an opportunity to move up in the department. This is a very diverse community, and I want to make sure at some time that the organization fits the same description as the city as well. Training is very important. I will go back to the situation with we're having incidents where you have unarmed citizens killed on a stop. That is something that's very important, and I wouldn't want to happen within the city of Southfield. So my goal would be to make sure that officers are trained with diverse culture, make sure that you have interpersonal communications, be able to speak to people of all ages, all races, and make sure that there is a communication back and forth. So making sure also that the business owners feel that they are being respected. And, you know, there's over 71,000 people in the city of Southfield. This may be 300, so I'm only touching a small amount. But those who, in the past, who felt like their voice wasn't heard or wouldn't be heard, those are the people I would like to reach to have a meeting on a regular basis, weekly if not monthly, for you to actually say some issues that you have, you want to discuss them, and see if there can be some type of change. So those are the 3 major things I'd like to do.
Thank you.
This is a 2-part question with a follow-up.
Yeah.
How would you go about measuring the performance of the Southfield Police Department as an organization? And how would you measure the performance of your traffic and patrol officers?
There's a situation or a system called CompStat, or Comprehensive Statistics. This is something that all the units would view on a regular basis, weekly. We would have meetings and determine where there are the most traffic stops, where there are the most incidents, were there any robberies, were there any car thefts. This would determine how much effort is being placed by the officers. I was asked a question before, what would you do if there's an officer that is working and just kind of sitting on the side of the road and not doing anything? That's not going to be tolerated at all. We're going to make sure that every officer that puts on a uniform in Southfield knows that you're here to work. We're going to ask you to do your job. We're not going to ask you to do less, but we're going to ask you to do more. And we will be able to determine that by our statistics from each officer. Everybody would have a requirement. And sometimes when you say requirement, well, everybody's trying to meet a quota. I don't want to look at it as a quota. Everybody has a job to do. And so if you are doing your job, there are going to be some statistics. And based on what you're doing, I would like to have some type of reward for the officers that are doing their job, and not just writing a ticket, but also just making contact with the citizens. Sometimes, like I said, it might be a stop that has nothing to do with a traffic stop. Just stopping by the schools, the business agencies, or just any organization, say, hey, we just stopped up to see. And what's really important is the school liaison officers. I believe there's a need for more than the one that I was told that we have. With 3 schools, I would ask all the patrol officers, when the school is being released, at the end of each day, the officers are at every school. This will let us know that we have more presence. And at that time, having more presence, it probably will reduce a lot of the crime, and people seeing officers around, I don't think they would be tempted to break the law as much as when there's no visibility of the officers.
Follow-up question. How would you deal with a patrol officer who has not written a ticket all year, or who has activity levels significantly low for the department's standards?
First of all, I would be surprised of any officer that haven't written a ticket all year. And that's not going to stop with that officer. That officer has supervisors, from the sergeant, the lieutenant, all the way up to the deputy chief and acting chief. Why is this officer still existing here? We're not paying anybody not to do your job. If you're getting paid, you're going to do your job. So the first thing would be is to call that officer in and let that person know there's somebody that would like to have your job. Either you're going to start producing immediately, we can start with some type of training. I don't know if there's an issue. It might be some type of discipline that may be needed, but that person will be put on notice that you won't be allowed to put on the uniform and just sit idle and not do your job. So that matter will be handled swiftly.
In terms of police programs and functions, what types of police programs and functions would you consider a higher priority, and what types of programs and functions of the police department do you consider a lower priority? For example, how important is traffic enforcement?
Traffic enforcement is very important, but there are some other programs that are very important now, especially when it comes to internet crime. It's not only just crime with someone trying to take your money. We have a lot of young adults that are using the computer now, and crimes are being held against them, whether it be pornography, human trafficking. Those are things that are very important because we have a lot of young ladies and young men are easily led, and we want to make sure that we have a unit that covers that. I mentioned that we talked about auto theft. It's very important that you have a narcotics unit, you have a opiate situation that has gone bad all across the nation, so it's very important that we have units like that. Those are top priorities. I mentioned auto theft, the narcotics. We need to have some programs for the youth. Youth organizations, and maybe they don't have a lot to do. You know, they say the idle mind is a playground for the devil, and I believe that. So if there's some money that we need to be able to gain in order for students or youth to have some type of program, those are things that I would focus on. But anything that is protecting the youth and the seniors, and including all the citizens, but mostly our youth and seniors, some people that are very vulnerable, I consider those high priorities.
Thank you.
The city of Southfield was named one of the nation's most livable metro area suburbs in Forbes magazine. 2010 census lists the racial makeup of the city as 70.3% African American and 24.9% white. The Southfield Police Department sworn uniform officers' racial makeup is 73% white male, 14% female all races, 9% male African American, 2% female African American. Based on these figures, do you believe the Southfield Police Department reflects the city it serves, and what effect do you believe these numbers mean to department community policing efforts?
No, sir, I do not believe it reflects it. It's almost the complete opposite, and that is a concern of mine. If you have a high volume of African American, we're talking about over 71%, and it's a mixture of whether it be Chaldean, Russian, Romanian, whoever it might be, or white Americans, it makes no difference. But we have to have an organization that reflects that. And that's why I stated everyone who is considered a minority in the agency should have an opportunity to move up in the department by rank. Also, I would encourage any organization, students that are coming out of high school and trying to make a decision on what they're going to do with their life. What should you do? I would want to encourage the Southfield Police to let them know that you are welcome here. It may have been sometime or another you may not think that that would be an option for a young black male or female. I believe it is now because I know you do have African American, but I would like to increase that. I think it should reflect the city. But more so, more than race, when you have professionalism, when you're doing your job, I think it decreases any type of tension that you have when the officers are on the road because they have to have a concern. But it would be a pleasant thing to know that when you come to Southfield, you have an option to be able to either increase the minorities within the agency or also increase along moving up as far as the promotions are concerned, and even up to the top of the position of chief of police. And those officers that are within this agency, no matter what race you are, I think you ought to be able to speak to anybody. I don't care who you are, where you're from, as long as everybody is given respect, I think that would help out. But there needs to be some progress there, sir.
The President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing contained a number of recommendations. Please discuss your experience and success on the following 2 recommendations: ensuring fair and impartial policing by treating people with dignity and respect, and embracing community policing to reduce causes of crime.
I would like to hear from any citizen that has a complaint and has felt like that they haven't been treated fairly, either by a phone call, letters, whatever the case may be, in order to reach my office. And it's very important that if you have a complaint, that those complaints are addressed. And going back to when I was in Highland Park, community policing was very important. I got a chance to meet the parents, the grandparents, all the teachers, people, all the members of the school board, the city council, the mayor. They had just about all of our officers' phone number. That was very important. You could actually call directly. It wasn't like you were just calling a phone bank. You could call us directly, and if there was a problem, we were able to answer it. Especially, all communities have problem children. So what do you do with that problem child? Be able to talk to them directly, and sometimes you can turn a child around who didn't have any guidance and let them know that there's nothing wrong with being a police officer. They have to know that you're a person before you put on the uniform and when you take it off. But when you can have communication and not be afraid to talk to them and not talk down to people, that's the biggest thing. And being a communicator, I would be able to speak to the homeless man or woman who's standing on the street up to the top of the top 500 Fortune company. And you speak with everybody with respect. But community policing is very important because when citizens begin to know the officers or know their names, they begin to trust them. They will give them information that normally you won't have just by riding by in patrol. They say, well, wait a minute, there are a lot of break-ins here, or there's going to be a shooting here tonight, actually letting you know, or there's going to be a gang fight here, or I know who's been breaking in the stores. Community policing is very important. And I think that is at the top of the list when it comes to running a police agency because many people think that police officers are in a reactive mode as opposed to a preventative mode. But community policing really is at the top of the list in crime prevention. You can get a lot done and reduce crimes by having community policing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Describe your view of command and how you develop leadership in subordinate commanders.
Could you repeat that one more time, please?
Sure. Describe your view of command and how you develop leadership in subordinate commanders.
There are so many different ways of leadership. And to be quite honest, through the ranks of me starting as a sergeant up to the commander, I had to learn that there's some adjustments you can make. Everybody loves a sweetheart boss, the one that you can do no wrong and they hug you every day and tell you everything is right and you're not going to get in trouble. Nobody likes the hard, I'll say hard, but I don't want to curse in today, but nobody likes that person. So you have to find some balance in between and also lead by example. When I come to roll call, everybody knows my shoes are shined. My uniform is intact. I'm going to speak to everybody directly, tell them to be professional, do not say anything negative to people, and understand some people have certain issues that may not be yours. There's no reason for you to take everything personal. So when you lead by example, people tend to follow you. And then also, it's good to have a variety, because I have a thing that I say some people can read better than they hear. Meaning, you know, if you tell somebody something repeatedly and they don't respond, maybe you like to see it in writing. But no one likes to get written up. No one likes to get written up, but you have to find some way to do that. So I think it all depends on what situations that you're dealing with, on what the best leadership is. And if you say that you're transparent and you're honest and you can be trusted and people can come to you, I mean, that covers it all. So trying to make sure that everybody is positive. And if you have somebody who's going through some issues, talk to them. They may be going through something too, and they may need some type of support as well. But it's very difficult being a supervisor, and those that do it well, they've gone through a lot to get to that point.
Thank you.
The next questions are situational questions.
Okay.
You have been appointed the chief.
I beg your pardon, sir?
These are situations.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay. Okay. I wasn't jumping the gun, but that was good, okay.
Let me repeat myself.
Okay.
These are situational questions.
I hear you, okay.
Thank you. Not yet.
Yeah,
You have been appointed police chief. On your second day of employment at Southfield School is holding a regional spelling bee. The event draws 500 students and 2,000 parents. As the final round of the spelling bee begins, a heavily armed gunman enters the school wearing an explosive vest. The gunman announces to the school and Facebook Live that he will start killing children 10 minutes if his demands are not met. What actions do you take in the first few minutes and why?
In any type of critical situation, we hope that we're going to have a team, meaning of several law enforcement agencies that are on the same channel or same dispatch, you know, that we have a situation, now we have a hostage situation, or we have an active gunman. So all of those departments are going to be deployed. If they're not doing it, I'm quite sure that all students or schools have lockdown situations. This is very difficult because one thing you didn't add is what are those demands? The biggest thing is to try to keep the children safe. We have to have our SWAT team there immediately. And when you have an active gunman, sometimes there is no time for negotiations, and if you have someone who's saying that they're going to kill someone, this situation has to be handled immediately. So all surrounding areas that have active hostage negotiations or SWAT units, those units will be deployed. We need to make sure that we can have someone inside the schools that are trained as well. Very important, you have team leaders inside schools. I know there's a debate about whether or not teachers or any type of administrator should carry weapons. I think that's something we can debate for a while, but I think it's very important that that might be something that you can consider. It does take a minute. I don't care if it takes 60 seconds for units to be deployed. 60 seconds might not be long enough. And if you have someone, I believe there's nothing wrong with having a trained person besides the school liaison officer in every school that reacts like a policeman and be in a position to stop that threat immediately.
After a review of tickets being issued during traffic stops for the last 6 months, you are advised that African American males are stopped 75% more times than other races and receive 50% more tickets than all other races. What actions would you take to correct the situation?
As chief of the city of Southfield, my number one plan is to meet with every officer in this organization and talk to them and see what their thoughts are about race, about all races. Let the elephant in the room out. I want to know. I want to have some concrete information that you had a reason for stopping these people, the individuals that were stopped. Now, we already know that Southfield, we said, is over 71% African American. So are these legitimate reasons? Or does it just appear like that? When you look at something on paper, it might have that appearance. What were the stops about? Do you actually have a reason for it? Or are these some violations that if you go to court, it's going to be upheld? That's very important to me. If you go to court and find out that these write-ups are frivolous, then we need to deal with the situation on who are the officers that are writing these tickets. Every citizen in here wants to be safe. You don't want anybody riding through the city with the music blasting and the smell of cannabis coming out the windows and all that. That's not what you want in the city. But if it's just because someone drove through and looked like your tail light was bent or broken, something that did not hold up, that's unacceptable. Because I said in the beginning, I want every citizen to be treated fairly. The statistics you gave me doesn't appear that they're being treated fairly. But that is something that we would investigate and make sure that no one is being targeted, whether it be African Americans or any other race. That is something that I will not tolerate.
Here's a situation question for you, sir. A 10-year veteran of your department is accused of posting racial derogatory statements regarding the Jewish and African American communities on Facebook and on internal police email. What action do you take?
Again, that's a very serious situation. It's not going to be tolerated for anybody choosing any type of race or gender or anybody that is different and then harass them through emails or social media, anything like that. So that particular officer is going to be called in. Before it gets to my office, they have supervisors. You're going to tell who is their immediate supervisor and address this. First of all, they're going to know from the beginning that it's not acceptable. But if someone chooses to do that, there is an internal way of, okay, you're going to receive, say, a written reprimand at that time. And if this occurs again, you're also going to be sent to training. Maybe you have some sensitivity issues and you need that. Or cultural diversity training. And letting you know that you're going to be in progressive discipline because racial prejudice of any kind is going to be unacceptable. It should be at this point. But there's always some person who's not following the rules, and it has to be addressed because you don't want that type of reputation to reflect the Southfield Police Agency. So it's going to be handled immediately. And if that person continues, again, they will become a former Southfield police officer.
Your department is advised by a distraught mother that her son with mental health issues has stated that he's going to a local high school to harm himself and other children who have taunted him for the last 2 months. It's 7:45 a.m. and the school starts at 8 a.m. What actions do you take?
We should have officers working around the clock, which means that still might be the midnight shift, or if it's a day shift, we'll deploy a unit to that school immediately. And I would also, prior to that, let every officer know, and we know it's pretty rampant in the community that there are some mental health issues that have to be dealt with. And that's something that's very important. But we would also make sure in the school that you have counselors that can speak to that person as well, someone who's already there. But the first thing we want to do is to stop the threat. And there should be officers within 3 minutes away in any direction of the schools. This is what I'm hoping will happen, that there shouldn't be taking any longer. A response time more than 3 minutes, it needs to be addressed and adjusted. So something like that. Of course, if this person has a weapon, not only do you not want him or her to harm themselves, you don't want them to harm anybody else. So we'd have to deploy somebody there immediately.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is another situational and hypothetical.
Okay.
On the 4th day of your new appointment as Southfield Police Chief, you're in attendance at a city council meeting when you're advised that a real and credible threat has been received. It has been discovered that a number of packages addressed to senior city employees have been received in the mailroom of the city offices. The person sending the packages is known to be a recent discharged employee who lost his house due to city property tax foreclosure. City Council asks what action you will take.
If the city of Southfield does not already have a bomb squad, we're going to be in contact or have a relationship with organizations, agencies that do have a bomb squad. A group that can handle any suspicious packages, someone who is able to be on the spot just like the SWAT team for situations like this. And of course, whoever the council members are, want to make sure that they're safe at some point as well and make sure that they're not in the vicinity. And it's good that we're receiving that information. And that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say community policing. To be able to get some information from somebody ahead of time is paramount as opposed to you coming after the fact. So even just to be able to have that information from the beginning is a good thing. And we need to have a unit that will be able to cover that. Any type of explosive, any type of hazmat, any type of, when you spoke about a mass shooting or someone attempting to do that, we need to have a unit that covers that. So that would be the first thing that I would do, is deploy one of those units. Again, if not our agency, the closest surrounding agency that has that. Would it be important for the city of Southfield to have that specifically?
Thank you very much.
In closing, is there any information not previously asked that you would like to share with the search committee?
I've thought about it before, and I think you've covered everything. My concerns, and I will say this to the whole audience, if chosen as the chief of Southfield, the first thing I would like to do is have a team meeting with everyone. I know everyone, several people have a person that they would prefer to lead this organization, but when it comes down to it, we all must be a team. And we don't want anyone to feel that they have lost or it's going to be just massive changes. Again, my vision, again, is to make sure that everybody in this whole city is treated fairly. The business owners, the civilians, everybody knows that they are protected and served at all times, and that is our main job. So I want to make sure that everybody in the organization knows that we're going to move forward and not have anything negative. This is a positive thing. This is something that in my 29 and a half years of law enforcement I've looked forward to be a part of an agency and serve the citizens of that city. I enjoy Southfield. I worked here, played here, came through here. Everybody comes to Southfield for some reason. I respect the city, and I would make sure that the citizens of Southfield receive the same respect, not only from me, but for the whole organization. And that's all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This concludes the public forum. I'd ask the panel members to exchange seats with the City Council now. I'd also like to return the meeting over back to City Council President. And panel members, if I can have any notes that you might have taken during this proceeding. Thank you.
I'm going to bring this meeting back to order. Our next item on the agenda is communications. If you have not been part of communications before, when your name is called, you can come up front to the lectern. We ask that you try to move as swiftly as possible, because we have a lot of names to go through today. But once you get up here, the timer is here on the lectern, and you'll have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes to speak. So our first request for recognition is Pamela Gerald.
Residents, you know who I am. I've been your independent voice when you've needed me for almost 36 years. 2 weeks ago, outside of these chambers during the city council meeting, I had an encounter with Sonia Simpson Gardner. At first, I thought she had a problem with me, but we don't even know each other. I thought she had a problem with the police or with the city of Southfield. She doesn't. Her problem is not with me, my husband, the police, nor the city. How do I know that her problem is with the state of Michigan? Someone anonymously sent me an order of denial of mortgage loan originator license application. This order was issued and entered on June the 19th, 2018 by the State of Michigan Department of Insurance and Financial Services. It was determined by the findings of fact and conclusions of law that Infinity Mortgage, which is owned by Sonia Simpson Gardner, committed mortgage fraud, and the violations were directly attributable to her conduct. And it reads as follows. Applicant engaged in fraud, deceit, and material misrepresentation in connection with the transaction by altering a death certificate as well as a fraudulent letter of credit explanation that was reworded for the client's original and actual letter of credit explanation. Applicant admitted to the examiner that she wrote the fraudulent letter of credit explanation.
Ms. Gerald, if you could hold up for a minute. I don't understand what the purpose of this communication is. We did
Because
ask
I have a right
for
to say what I want to say for 3 minutes, and
Well,
I'm
not-
saying it,
you-
so
you're
I'd like to
making-
continue.
you're making an
Infinity
attack. You're making an
Mortgage
attack on
has
someone
an
here.
outstanding civil
Pam,
fine of
we're gonna ask you to leave if you're not quiet.
$14,250 payable to the state of
Can you
Michigan.
please cut the microphone off, please? Now, if you have something that you want to say regarding the city, you can most certainly can, but we're not gonna attack anybody in here.
What I'm saying is that I understand why 2 weeks ago in these very chambers that I was provoked.
That's between the two of you.
No, it's not.
It is.
I was provoked. I'm not gonna take the bait, and you won't get your $14,250.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Our next request for recognition is Gerard Mullen, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Gerard Mullen, Southfield Citizens Oversight Committee. Post Office Box 155, Southfield, Michigan, 48037. Mr. Chairman, tonight I would like to talk about Section 8.4. Section 8.4 in the Southfield City Charter. 8.4 is entitled Budget Proposal, and I quote from Section 8.4. A public hearing shall be held on the budget proposal each year, and notice of such public hearing shall be published at least 1 week in advance, unquote. Section 8.4 mirrors Public Act 43 of 1963. What we are really talking about here is a state law. Last Thursday, May 30th, 2019, this council held a meeting about the proposed budget, but failed, according to state law, to hold a public hearing. And to top it off, you folks also failed, according to state law, to publish a legal notice for a public hearing for the proposed budget. Clearly, you folks can see you not only violated your own city charter, but you also broke 2 state laws to boot. To be more precise, you broke 2, count them, uno, dos, 2 state laws within Public Act 43 of 1963. I have here 8 issues of the Southfield Sun, the one newspaper that every Southfield resident gets a copy of for free. These 8 issues are the 8 issues just prior to May 30th, 2019, and the budget proposal meeting. There's not one published legal notice here that contains a proposed budget public hearing legal notice. Not one. In fairness, that's not exactly true. I'd like to point out that in the May 2nd issue, there is a proposed budget public hearing legal notice for the city of Lathrop Village. How come Lathrop can do it right and you folks can't? Thank you.
Mr. President, for the record, the public hearing is scheduled for Monday, June 17th. It's been posted as part of this council's official schedule. That date, the third Monday, is also established by our charter.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zorn. Our next request for recognition is Sonia Simpson Gardner.
You know what? Originally, I came here with a different mindset, but I really think that it is extremely unfortunate that we actually have people coming here and attempting to represent the citizenship of Southfield when they actually technically cannot vote. I am a voter in the city of Southfield. I pay property taxes. I own a home. It's my residential property in the city of Southfield. Now, I originally came here in November, letting you guys know that I had an issue with the police department. Despite what anybody else has to say, I have filed numerous police reports, and I also filed a federal complaint. But instead of trying to help me, someone is teaming up with other people to belittle myself or belittle my name and my character. What goes on with me has nothing to do with anything else. I have not committed fraud. I currently have a case with the U.S. Department of Civil Rights, which is something completely separate, and I don't have to defend myself with anything here. But it's really sad that we can have citizens that are not a resident in the city of Southfield making comments that are not appropriate and let them go for 2 minutes before we stop them. When I attempted to make any comments, I was previously stopped. But I've already said that I serve a powerful God, and what happens in the dark will come to the light. And everything that is happening with the corrupt police department that we have here is already coming out. I've already made my comments, and I've already said that I am a mother bear that will defend and help her daughter in any way that I possibly can. And it is so unfortunate that I've done all that I possibly can, and originally no one listened to me. But I'm letting you know that everything that has happened in the dark will come to the light. I've been very peaceful, but no one has been peaceful with me, and it's very unfortunate that you guys would allow someone that is not a citizen in Southfield to get up here and attempt to assassinate my name when I've not said anything negative about anybody. I've not been mean, and I've not been nasty. I've come up here asking for help, and my situation in November has not changed. None of or anybody up here has helped me. So I just want to let you guys know the situation from before is still exactly the same. Every time I come up here, you guys look at me exactly the same, and nothing has changed. But I continue to pray for every single one of you guys. When I go to sleep at night, I pray for myself, and I pray for every single one of you, because like I said, what happens in the dark will come to the light, and I serve a powerful God.
Our next request for recognition is Gail Montgomery.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Unfortunately, I was advised by my attorney that I shouldn't speak to council people tonight. So I really appreciate you recognizing me, and I will see you at another time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next request for recognition is Gina Perry. Gina Perry. All right. Our next request for recognition is Robin Gardella.
I certainly didn't know there were going to be so many people here when I signed up to talk, but my name is Robin Gardella. I'm at 31111 Mayville in Livonia. I'm a longtime employee of the City of Southfield and a longtime volunteer at Almost Home. Over the years, I've been amazed by the dedication and commitment the staff and volunteers of Almost Home